Bronze and Modern Gods. It's our weekly bonus episode where we answer viewer mail and we have a visit from someone from the comic book community to share their underrated book of the week. I am John, and that is Richard. No, it's your turn to get it wrong, buddy. Hey, if you're not following us at Bronze and Modern Gods on Facebook and Instagram, why not? And also visit us at bronzeandmoderngods.com. I get the emails. I see you guys going there. I get the traffic reports. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you.
And yeah, we've got some viewer mail and a visit from Spine Tick's Sith Lordly today. Will it be a Star Wars book, Richard? I think that's a yes.
I think so.
Let's get right into the viewer mail. Richard, you go first. What do you have?
Okay, my first piece of mail is from A Instinct. Again, loving your channel. The more mature way of looking at the hobby I find very nice, and I'm enjoying every episode. Well, thank you.
Mature.
I got a question maybe for your special episode that I'm thinking about for a while now. What slab would you rather keep? A high-grade copy of a book that has not so rare a print run, or a lower grade variant that is more scarce, rare to come by, i.e. a bronze 9.8 versus a Canadian price variant 9.6, or the original book in lower grade, which may be older but with not such a low print run, i.e. an ASM 300 direct 9.4 or 9.6 versus a Marvel Collectible Comics classic ASM 300 reprint 9.8. The collectible classic is
that's a chromium one, right?
It's the chromium version, right? Which is really cool looking. I have to admit.
Good question.
Question.
You go first. I have thoughts.
Yeah. As far as the original versus a reprint, a high grade reprint versus the low grade original, I would tend towards going to the original. I mean, if I had a choice, I am, for example, off to CGC, I'm sending a Fantastic Four #1 Golden Record reprint because that's what I could afford.
Yeah.
If I had, on the other hand, and it's probably going to grade out to be a 7, 6.5. If on the other hand I had a 1.0 original Fantastic Four #1, I would take that all day long. Even if that reprint came back as a 9.8, I still think the original just wins out on cachet and just the fact that it is the original source. Now, the picking Fantastic Four #1 may be a bad example just because it's the difference in values are so extreme. But even books that aren't that way, for example, Alpha Flight #1. There is a facsimile version of that book floating around. That's fairly easy to get, and not that Alpha Flight #1
is fairly easy.
It's fairly easy to get. Given my druthers, I'll take the original over the facsimile, and again, it is the original story as opposed to the reprint. What about you, John?
All right. Here's the thing. Why do you have to choose? Is my first counter question to that. Why not both? Is it a budgetary thing? Okay, I can see that. The example I'm going to use is a book that you guys know has been on my want list for a while now, and that's Captain America and the Falcon #212, the 35-cent price variant with the missing Marvel Comics Group logo across the top. Rare as hen's teeth. You cannot find them. So I would pick that all day long over the original version, which I can get at 9.8 for about $50. I mean, no contest there. So I think the question is a really good one. Would I rather have, let's use the example that he or she gave, and that is ASM 300. Would you rather have the direct market version in 9.4, 9.6, or the collectible classic ASM 300 and 9.8? I'd take the collectible classics in 9.8. And why do I say that? It looks cooler. It's actually scarcer. Will it have the resale value that the ASM normal 300 would? No, but it's personal taste.
It really is. And it's not a cheap book either.
No. Yeah, that's something that's why I'm like, why not both? We're collectors. If it's a budget thing, I get it, but go for it.
Yeah, if you can afford both, absolutely get both. There's especially if you get one to read.
Yeah,
I feel more comfortable reading, a facsimile, for example, versus the real thing. So, that might be a reason why you go for the facsimile too. You actually get to hold the book and open it and
right.
flip the pages.
Uh, that's blasphemy. I don't know what you're talking about. Uh, the housing market is the strongest it's been since 2006. Mortgage that house, buy that ASM, do it. That's what I say. You live once. You're going to take that house with you when you go?
That's
No.
right.
Those comic books will live forever.
They'll fit in the coffin with you.
Exactly. Don't make me do my Susie Orman speech. I haven't done one of those in a while. All right, let me move on to the next one before I start. This is from our good friend Russell Loftus. And Russ visits us here and says, hey, the challenge with CGC reserving the right to adjust your submission tier based on fair market value is completely impacted by how long it's taking for them to grade your books and how quickly the market is moving. I thought this was a brilliant point that we glossed over in our CGC episode earlier this week. What Russ means is my GI Joe #1 that I just submitted is a great example. When I submitted it, I thought I had a shot at a 9.8, and I thought, all right, I'm going to submit it under the normal tier right now. As of this time that I'm submitting it, it's about a $700 book, or no, it wasn't a $700 book, more like an $800 book. By the time it got received and graded or into the grading room, I got a call from CGC saying, hey, we have to do this express because it's worth more than $1,000 now. And I told the story earlier this week. And so I'm like, oh, so that means it's a 9.8 then. And she was really cagey when I said that. So, yeah, this is a really good point. Russ continues, your submission could be accurate at the time, but because it's taking months for grading, the market could have moved during that time. A raise in prices needs to be followed by a commitment to keep their grading timelines. 1,000%.
Right, because it could be the opposite too, right? You've got that, you've got that $1,000 book and you submit as an express, and then the value tanks for some reason, and so it's now a $200 book.
Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Yeah.
1 in 25 cover. By the time that came and went, the submission times. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought. I just had a great example there.
Right. I mean, it's they don't give you your money back in that case. You get graded as express, and you just eat the loss. So if they're going to adjust prices as aggressively, let's say,
yeah.
Then they really need to hold themselves to a standard as to how these books are graded. You're going to have to grade them on the grade the value based on the value of that book on submission day, not on the 3 months later that it takes for them to get around to grade it. Because like you say, the market's insane. 1 week a book is worth $200, the next week it's worth $500, and that kind of difference totally is going to move you to a different tier.
It's nutty. All right, Richard, what do you have next?
Next, I've got a comment from Bass Clef Comics. Hey guys, love the show and watch all the time. I was curious to hear your guys' thoughts on the difference between collecting before and after grading companies started slabbing books. Do you feel it has mostly been good or bad for the industry and the hobby? I myself find the numbering system helpful when buying and selling, and it's nice for presentation. But I also see how some purists might not like the commoditization of comics. Anyway, would love to hear your guys' thoughts. No, it isn't. Keep up the great work. Well, thanks, Big Clef. Appreciate all the kind words. Yeah, this is interesting because, there was a time, people have to remember, that there weren't grading companies. Yeah. They weren't, CGC didn't exist. CBCS didn't exist. PGX, all those companies are an artifact of the last 20 years, last 15 years, if you want to be more accurate. So, before that, if you're in the 80s and you're collecting comics, you are collecting raw comics, right? You put them in a bag. When I first started, backing boards weren't a thing. So you put them in a bag and you put them in your long box, and there they sat. And, somebody may have put a comic on the wall in a frame every now and then, but there was no
But you had fortresses. If you guys remember fortresses for Golden Age books, like really, really expensive books, there were these big plastic slabs that screwed down on either side and it protected your book.
I could never afford those things.
Yeah, they were very expensive.
Yeah, at the time. Now, but he's asking a really important question.
Yeah.
How has grading companies, quantifying the quality of the book, which is what grading companies do. They have a scale, and someplace on that scale, your book matches other books of that same the quality on that scale. So if your book is a 7.5, another book in the same condition will also be a 7.5. And he's right. There is a sense of commoditization with that, because you are reducing that comic book, that story, to a number, either 9.5, 9.8, or a 7.5. And not only that, but now you are comparing those books with others, which generates this whole aftermarket in terms of prices. That's why GPA's around and companies like that. They compare the sale prices of those graded books, and that's how this whole market has developed. I mean, what do you think, John? I mean, do you think that's a good thing? And looking back on both sides of that divide.
We was there, I can say that, and had a shop. And I can tell you, it has changed how people grade 100%. Grading was always subjective. You still see remnants of this today on eBay. Refer to the pictures. I'm not a professional grader.
Yeah.
That's a really cheaty way of saying I don't have the guts to stand behind my grading. So that happened on a dealer level. You look at books that are getting 9.8s today, there's a reason they're really expensive, because 9.8 as a grade did not exist in the 70s and 80s. It was near mint, and near mint meant near mint, meant a 9.2, meant a 9.0.
Mhm.
You could have a couple spine ticks and still be near mint. You could have some. I remember the early days when you could have a whole chunk of a cover out and still get a good grade out of a book. Nowadays that'd probably be a 2.0 or so.
Mm.
So it's interesting. I think it's done the hobby a lot of good by standardizing grading procedures, because now you just have to look at a few videos, you have to send some books in, be really honest with yourself, see how it comes back, and you can teach yourself how to grade, where before it was a bit of the wild west.
But I agree with you. That's been, and not only that, if the whole encapsulation process has has given us a way of protecting our books
Yeah.
too, in a consistent way that we didn't have previous. I mean, you could put it in a fortress if you were fancy dancy, or you put it in your long box and put the long box in the attic like I did.
Mhm.
But that encapsulation and protection is an important part. But I don't think we would have the comic books as investments that we have now, because of that grading scale. People who do not have a intrinsic knowledge of comic books can learn what that scale
Yeah.
means and start buying and selling them as commodities. It's like a stock market. So I think that's part of the reason we've seen such a monumental increase in the values of books in the past year, is that because people who outside of the collector hobby have come in, seen these as investment vehicles, and have been buying up
Yeah.
these comics. Looking at those numbers, looking at GPA, looking at they're doing all the math and all that. They have absolutely no interest in the comic book as an art form. It is simply another blue chip stock that they're trading. And
It's like the housing market.
and it's there's good and bad to that. It's great because it brings interest to and energy to the hobby. I think that a lot of those people who do come into the hobby are excited about the movies, and then that leads them to reading the books about the characters in the movies. And some of them will stay. Some of them will become a part of the community. So in terms of growing the community, I think it's important. But at the same time, we've gotten to a point, we've had a conversation in our last show where we're starting to price the real collectors out of reach for these these key books. If I already didn't have a giant size X-Men #1, I thought I would pay the $6,000 for that they cost
But
nowadays.
Richard, define a real collector. What's a real collector now? These people may see themselves just as valid as someone like you and I that grew up reading Byrne and Claremont. They may not know a Byrne from a Claremont or a Cockrum from a Paul Smith, but they know they like the X-Men and they don't care. They like the movie. They like Wolverine looks cool. Their money spends just as well as our money.
You're absolutely
So,
right. Yeah.
it's a horrible thing to hear as a longtime reader and collector, but times change.
So do Spider-Man.
Yeah, things evolve. Exactly. That's a great example. So it's a long-winded answer to say, yeah, it's changed comics.
Yeah, it has, and it's the dynamicism that grading has introduced to just by quantifying things. This to say
Yeah.
this apple is just like this apple, and you can now do trades of apples and be confident that you're not getting ripped off. That has really, I think, given the market some definition.
But potentially 70 new people deciding what the apples are may change things yet
Right,
again. The new hires at CGC. We'll see how they work out.
Did you see the bonus is up to $2,500 now? If you
I saw that. And I also saw that they hired a new head of marketing, and hopefully, this guy's going to crack the whip.
I hope so. I hope they make a change.
You could have had me, but you won't let me work remote.
Nah, they can't afford you.
I know they really can't. All right. Up next, we have Peter Eddy, who writes Economics and Comics, interviewed Steve Borak from CBCS this week. And Steve said he would change CBCS's labels if the hobby demanded it. Well, Steve, the hobby demands it. I think there were several comments. If you don't know what we're talking about on Monday's show, I said the one thing that's really holding me back from using CBCS more is the graphic design of the label. It's not as amateur hour as it used to be. They did improve it, but before you look at those early CBCS labels, it is like I learned how to use Word today.
Yeah.
They were horrible. It's a little better. It still is just not as attractive as the CGC label. It doesn't have that impact of the grade that you can see from a dealer's wall at a comic show. It needs work. So he told Steve he would try to get a petition signed by us collectors and send it to him. Everyone needs to jump on this. That is the only thing the hobby doesn't like about CBCS. Well, I don't know if that's the only thing. That's my major thing, is the label. You go to Economics and Comics and sign that petition. I'm just looking you straight in the eye right now, Steve Borak.
Yeah, let's
change that label.
Let's do a Bodie McBoatface and crowdsource a change. No, me personally, I don't mind the label, but I do think both their labels and CGC's labels are completely underutilized. You got two sides to that thing, right? Yeah. And for the most part, they only use the front. They don't put really real information on the back. But
let me give CBCS some credit, because we didn't cover this on Monday. On the back of the CBCS label is a QR code. And you scan that QR code with your phone and you get free grader's notes for that book. No cost, instant access. Genius. Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I
did too.
That's a great point, because CGC charges you $5 for a grader's note, and especially if you're at a con or something like that, and here's a book that's it's a 5.0, and you're looking at it and you're trying to figure out, well, why is it a 5.0? Maybe I could press it to make it a 6. Yeah. And those grader's notes are important, and if it's a big purchase, you might bite the bullet with CGC and spend the $5 to buy the grader's notes, just so you have that extra information. So to have that available, you not only for free, but instantly available just by scanning that QR code, I think is a good point.
Exactly. So there are pluses to CBCS. Just fix that label. All right. One of the things We asked you on last week's bonus episode, what was your favorite company-wide crossover event? And a lot of you chimed in. We picked a couple of you to spotlight today with your answers. I'll go first with a response from a good friend of the show, Jason Brownell. Best crossover is tough in terms of creativity and overall impact. It has to be Crisis on Infinite Earths. Well, yeah, it changed the DC universe forever for the first time. In terms of pure enjoyment, I love events that give a new lens to old characters by putting them in a changed environment. Acts of Vengeance is a perfect example of seeing how characters all changed until with the new matchups. For that same reason, I love Dark Reign. The new status quo made the Avengers go underground, and characters like the Punisher, who I enjoy but never got too excited over, suddenly had a world of purpose that drew you in. An event, when done well, changes the world and focuses the right cast on showing the impact of that change. Yeah, that was my point, about Operation Galactic Storm. That had long-lasting effects. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, great comments, great call-outs. Richard, what do you have?
I've got one from another friend of the show, Dean TV. I enjoyed Ultimatum, the way Magneto pretty much effed up everything, and so many favorites of mine meeting their fate. It's a great read, in my opinion. I've enjoyed all of the Ultimate Marvel pretty much. Yeah, that's. How do you feel about the Ultimate series?
I know how you feel because it gave you your favorite character right now. So Miles Morales. Right. By the way, someone, I don't know who, I got to give them credit when I find out, but someone, how we have our joke. How much Morales?
Miles of Morales.
Miles Morales. I heard a variant of that joke this week was in the UK, he's referred to as Kilometers Morales, which I thought was really good. But, Ultimate Universe, Dean, I love you. I can only take so much Brian Michael Bendis. He really 7 issues to tell something that could be told in 3 pages. I'm not a fan of that. The uncompressed storytelling, the dialogue, everybody tends to sound the same. Yeah. Well, yeah. I loved Alias, so I don't despise everything that Brian Michael Bendis did, but I never got into it.
Oh yeah, it's yeah. I agree. I think some of those story arcs were longer than they needed to be, but I think it served its purpose as a storyline.
Did you ever read any of the Marvel Ultimate Universe titles, Richard? I think you were out at that point.
I was. I did read some of Ultimate Spider-Man, which was okay. Frankly, I didn't think Ultimate Fallout was that great, to be honest with you. If it wasn't for Miles' appearance, I think it would have been a pretty much just an average story, and we wouldn't be talking about the series at this point. I know that's blasphemy, but
I know. What are you doing? Your feelings are your feelings, and they're all valid. I learned that in therapy. All right. We have a special guest, as always, every week during this bonus episode. We have a member from the comic books community that joins us to tell us their underrated book of the week. And this week we have from Spine Ticks, one of the great comic book YouTube shows that's on every Saturday night, the great Sith Lordly. And here he is right now, direct from Spine Ticks every Saturday night. Plus, it's Sith Lordly.
I just love when you guys have me over to visit.
I know, right?
So nice to see you guys.
Yeah, nice to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Last time I was here, I was in a Pokemon outfit. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had. Yeah.
You are literally 8 miles away from me.
I know. We could just do this in person.
Fully vaxxed.
There you go. Swimming pool party, barbecue party.
Exactly. We'll have to do that. You are here to tell us about your underrated book of the week. So,
yes,
you gave us a teaser before we started recording. So I can just sit back and just, drink my coffee here, and you and Richard can go talk about it because I know nothing. Go for it.
Well, you gave me much frustration because you said only one book. Right. And when it comes to Star Wars, you see one behind me, Dr. Aphra, right? And I was very tempted to use that one, but instead, Richard probably recognizes this one here.
I actually know that book.
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually know that book.
Yes. Baylor Valance.
Valance the Bounty Hunter.
The Bounty Hunter, right?
Created by Archie Goodwin and Walt Simonson.
So, the thing about him, right, is that he made his first appearance in Star Wars in this issue, number 16, right? And he had a little bit of a run in this classic Star Wars, series. And then Marvel brought him back. But he apparently, I haven't seen where he was in Dark Horse at all, right? So it was like radio silence that whole time. And then he popped back into Marvel. Now, in doing some research for the show, I found out that he had some first appearances in Marvel that I'm going to have to kind of get those books and figure that out. But just as far as Marvel goes, right, you'll know Baylor Valance from being in this ongoing Bounty Hunter series and in Target Vader. But yeah, in my opinion, it's this book right here, because imagine this guy is getting a lot of play from Marvel, right? I was buying these last year out of back bins for like $8 or $10. I don't know, Richard, if you saw them at your LCS.
I regret passing them by. I've seen entire Star Wars runs where it's like, the keys are picked out of it. I'll just pass it by. I wish I had picked those up.
I've been grabbing them raw wherever I see them. I just got a shipment delivered today from CGC with a copy of 94, which is the all black cover by Cynthia Martin. It came back at 9.6. I was like, great.
There you go. Chef's kiss. So to me, I mean, I'm seeing 9/8 in this at about $400 or $500.
Wow.
Really?
I'm not suggesting buying that, but I'm suggesting picking this up when you see it at the LCS. I mean, behind me you've got Afra, right? And I mean, if that's about $500, right? But it just seems to me, with the amount of play that Marvel and Disney are giving to Baylor Valance, and you've got all of these series coming out on Disney Plus, could he make an appearance? Who knows?
Right. And I think my eye catches the fact that you actually have a Whitman.
That's right.
There as well. So
there's
a Whitman reprint, and then there's the regular version. Now, I joke a lot about how I don't know about Star Wars. Kind of an exaggeration. I do know a bit of the original, the OG Star Wars, including that series, because I read it. It was a hugely popular comic for Marvel and for me too. And you guys probably, I know you weren't there because I'm a little older. Richard might remember, but he was hugely popular. That character, the bounty hunter, he came back several times throughout the Marvel series, and just Walt Simonson. You can't go wrong with Walt Simonson.
Right.
Yeah. I saw the first Star Wars at the Chinese theater, but I was too young to be reading comics. Yeah. I was barely old enough to see the movie, and I just remember the line. That's all I remember. But yeah, I mean, so this guy, I've been honed in on him. I regret not buying the 9/8 when they were like $100, right? I just had a feeling, and now they've gone up more. But it just seems to me like if you can definitely find this on the cheap, should he end up in a Boba Fett series or something like that, because it's bounty hunter everything right now. Right. You could see that this book would go up even further. And, this just kind of stuck out as a book that I would, give some attention to on your show.
Well, I know more about Valance than I probably should, because I know from watching Facebook, some back issue comic groups that I'm a part of, he made his first canon appearance, I actually think, in a novel, not in a Dark Horse book. There was a prose novel, I believe. I may be completely wrong. This is going purely on sense memory here. But somebody did a really detailed post about Bronze Age Star Wars characters that ended up in canon. He was one of them. And I think he showed up in some different media after that. Then they brought him back in the Marvel.
Yes. What I'm seeing, there's various lists out there, right? And various apps and things. And, this is the book that they talk about. However, in preparation for this, like not 20 minutes ago, I started looking at that, and they were talking about Solo, a Star Wars movie, right? And there was an adaptation to comic books. And, there's some resources that are saying, that was his first return to canon in comic books.
Right.
And then there's the Han Solo Cadet series by Marvel that, again, he appeared in. And then, of course, then he came out, in these books here.
A bit of an homage cover there, too, as well. Yeah. If you look at the layout, it's the same kind of pose that he's got on his first appearance there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just seems like they're putting a lot of time and thought into this guy, right? that, if you can, again, find this book on the cheap at the LCS in the back bins, or, maybe it's on the wall and it's not slabbed, this book could go up in value. I just love it. I'm not selling any of these because, I am the Sith Lord, right? So
there is another key Valance appearance in that original run that I remember. I don't remember the issue number off the top of my head. I'll throw up here on the screen when I edit it.
Yeah.
But it's a really great cover where it's Darth Vader versus they're fighting, and I think he gets killed in that issue. And it's a great Carmine Infantino cover. I know that's a contradiction in terms sometimes, but it really is. And I wouldn't be surprised if that cover got a bump as well if they do something with this guy.
Now you're going to make me dig through all my boxes because I've got the whole run in there. But, like we talked about Jackson here before, right? Some of it is just hard to read.
I was just going to bring up Jackson.
Yeah.
You got Jackson on the horizon. You got to have Jackson. It's the Howard the Duck of the Star Wars universe.
That's a good, and I have his action figure on order. So,
There's a Jackson action figure?
Yeah, they brought him back. I think it's the Star Wars Black series. So I made a pre-order for that.
One of the rarest Star Wars Vader down variants is Vader facing off against Jackson. It's awesome. Yeah,
I need to look into that.
Oh, man. It's awesome. It's a white background. It's all in silhouette, but it is an awesome cover.
It's the mashup you wanted.
Yeah,
people laugh at Jackson can kick some butt. In the comics, he was part of that whole crew that Han Solo crew. So yeah,
why don't you get him on the show, man? Get Jackson up in here.
I would love to have Jackson. I mean. Jar Jar Binks should have been Jackson.
There you go. Now I could get behind a Darth Jar Jar, a Sith Lord Jar Jar. How dope would that be?
Oh, there was a whole rumor going on around that no one could be so bad as Jar Jar. it had to have been some overarching plot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
yes. So when you made me pick, I mean, Afra was obvious to me, right? I mean, you can't tell me that book's not going to take off from $500 once, there's a casting announcement and then a trailer, right? So I could have run with Afra, but I did want to highlight, Baylor Valance again, just as someone to be aware of and look out for.
Oh, that's a good one. You surprised me. I'm very pleased.
What do you think I was going to run with?
I thought you and Richard are like Star Wars X-Rogue Squadron 2 is the first appearance of Bahusha Mahimalahaka. I'm like,
yeah, I've got that issue actually.
Yeah. Trust me, there's enough in there, especially the Dark Horse run of just random, Jedis and Sith Lords and bounty hunters. You just lose your mind trying to keep track of them all.
It's almost like how we have the Marvel universe and you've got DC. Star Wars is its own thing, right? Even though it's Marvel, it's like you almost have to just collect Star Wars exclusively to just get a handle around all of that.
Yeah, and there's 24 hours in a day, so
that's true.
I'm good. Remind everybody where they can see you each week.
Yeah, every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific time on Spine Ticks, with homies that like Azor's Tiger, right? He's always watching your show, and all the guys there. We're there. 8 p.m. goes like 7 hours. Lately, we've been doing a lot of indie books and having writers come on and chit chat. Now and then we do like a Wednesday spotlight on someone in the community show. It'd be great to have you guys come. That has a fixed finish time of only like an hour and a half. There's not as much beer drinking, so you won't be there all night. Think about it.
Yeah. You may not see me pop on, but I'm always there in the chat, and I'm always there watching it on the widescreen because SNL's in the toilet. So,
well, you were there early on. Both of you guys, were there episode 1, and you've hopped on many times, John. So we have much love for what you guys are doing here.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate you. Sorry, Richard. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's interesting to watch the show, start with a focus, and then the more beer that goes on, the more it kind of goes to the interesting conversations. But it's a great show.
To your point, Richard, there's some things that come up later in the show, and we say, it's buried in the 6th or 7th hour. No one's going to watch that, right? And what I did find out, because we have had to edit the show sometimes when a guest is on and they get a little too wild. What I found is if you go too long, the editing tool no longer works. So yeah, just be aware.
Good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, and everybody check out Spine Ticks every Saturday and Wednesday.
Appreciate it. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye. And special thanks to Sith Lordly here for entertaining me and picking a book that I could actually speak on.
A Star Wars book that John knows. That's awesome.
Shocking, isn't it? Richard, you have a great week, and remind everybody where they can find us.
They can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods, or they can find us on the web at bronzeandmoderngods.com.
The web.
at the inner tubes.
Exactly. We'll see you on Monday, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Everybody stay safe.